And we are back one more time with the Horror Guys.
Episode 189. I'm Kevin.
I'm Brian.
We're going to talk about horror movies, aren't we?
Is 189 a prime number?
I couldn't tell you.
It's not.
Okay. So there's nothing special about
It's my magic
the
trick
number
for the day.
189. Okay. But it's a real number. It's not an imaginary number.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an odd number.
Yeah. Not that odd.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some of our shows are kind of odd. But that's,
Yeah, they were.
What do we got this week?
Beware the Blob from 1972. It's a sequel. It was originally known as Son of the Blob. The official title now is Beware! The Blob.
Not Beware of the Blob.
Right.
Just Beware the Blob.
And the classics Carrie from 1976 and Poltergeist from 1982. And they did a remake of Maniac in 2012. We're going to talk about all those.
Ooh. So, don't go to the prom, don't go into the closet, and stay away from mannequins.
Dangerous things.
Oh, and Beware the Blob.
Right. Yes. Stay away from blobs.
Yeah. Okay, as usual, we've got the 4 horror movies and a short for you here on the show. We also do other reviews, and you can find those at horrorbulletin.com, which I always talk about it being a weekly newsletter. There's also a second site there. You can just go right to the horrorbulletin.com and read it like a website. All our reviews, all our bonus reviews are still there.
The secret reviews.
They kind of are, yeah.
Such as Bird Boy, The Forgotten Children from 2018.
Ooh, yeah, that was just from this week. What else?
That was a cartoon, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah.
I think the moody
Animated.
adult animation.
Okay, yes. It's not suitable for children, for sure. Yeah. And The Quiet Ones from 2014.
A Hammer film.
I did not see that. You saw that alone.
Yeah, you saw that.
I saw that? Which one was it?
Jared Harris as a professor, and they're investigating a girl who was possessed, and it's a university thing from the 70s.
Oh, right.
It's been a while.
It has been a while, and it was kind of forgettable.
It kind of was.
That's why I kind of forgot it.
It wasn't bad, but
It wasn't bad.
It
but
didn't
it
not
was
really
just,
stand out.
Just middle of the line, yeah, in every
Yeah.
way, from what I remember.
Yeah. And about the time this podcast will release, the 13th issue, lucky number 13 of Horror Bulletin Monthly will be available. HorrorGuys.com/monthly, and you can pick up the entire month of September's reviews, the regular ones, the special ones, the bonus ones, and anything else that might have come along.
Awesome.
And you get that as an ebook on your Kindle or your Apple or a paperback book in your mailbox.
Paperbacks, tangible books you can hold in your hand.
They last forever.
And you can share them.
Does anybody ever share a book and get them back?
No, then you buy another one to replace it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You can do that because, yeah, they're books. You can buy them. What can't you buy in stores? Blobs.
No, you can't.
Beware the Blob. 1972, directed by Larry
Hagman,
Hagman.
his only feature film that he directed.
This is the film that J.R. shot.
And he's got a teeny tiny part in it, too.
Yes. Barely speaks. Written by Jack. I wonder if this was a big flop and why he never got to direct anything else.
Maybe it, disappointed, the response he got.
This
I
was
don't
after
know.
I Dream of Jeannie, but long before Dallas. I don't remember him doing a lot right before Dallas. Maybe his career was kind of tanked.
I don't know.
He made a
Yeah.
comeback.
I mean, he got lots of credits, though. He did stuff. He was steadily working.
Okay. I don't remember him in the early 70s much.
Well, we were awfully young. So, yeah.
Written by Jack Woods, Anthony Harris, and Richard Clare. Stars Robert Walker Jr., Gwynn Guilford, and Richard Stahl. Hour and 27 minutes. Trailer in the show notes. And we talked about the Steve McQueen blob from 1958. We talked about the Sean Neesmith blob from 1988. And this is kind of the forgotten stepchild of blobness.
The sequel to the 1958.
Was this made for TV?
I don't think it was, no.
Okay. I know the one we saw was definitely
I remember
formatted for
seeing
TV.
it at I want to say the drive-in. I'm almost sure it was the drive-in where I saw it. Yeah.
I had seen it before
When it
also,
came
but
out,
just
I
on
was
regular TV.
I was a wee lad. I barely remember it, but yeah. I'm almost positive it was drive-in. I know it was when it came out. Oh, spoiler free?
How many of these horrible horror movies did you watch when you were like 6?
Oh, probably all of them. My parents were big into movies, and we went to the movies a lot.
All right.
And they had no qualms about, R-rated, X-rated, unrated. They took me to see everything.
I think I was probably 17 before I saw an R-rated movie with my parents.
Yeah, some of the movies, I look back and like, oh my goodness, they let a child see this? Yeah. But I turned out okay.
That's debatable. You're still doing it, still watching these
Still
things.
watching them, yeah.
What happened? Spoiler free.
Well, apparently after the first movie ended, they randomly dumped the blob into the Arctic without telling anyone or marking the spot. So it's back again. And the movie's a little dated.
Just a little?
Yeah, just a little. Well, it's very 70s. It's more gruesome than the first movie. And it's a lot funnier, too, with quite a bit of dark humor. But overall, a worthy sequel.
There's parts of this that's just plain comedy.
Oh, yeah.
It was not, I don't think it was intentionally a comedy movie. It was not intentionally a comedy horror, but so much silliness.
Out that way.
Yeah, wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, credits roll over cute kittens playing in the grass. Does the blob eat the kittens? No. It's just there. They're just kittens playing in the grass.
Not right away.
Oh, yeah. Well, not during the credits.
Not during the credits.
The kitten does not make it to the end of the movie.
Uh-huh.
Well, we cut to a couple out camping. No, wait. It's a tent set up in the garage. The man's wife, Marianne, finds a thermos in their freezer that says, "Specimen, keep frozen." She says her freezer is for food that they eat, and sets it out on the sink.
Uh-oh.
Chester is just fresh back from the Arctic, and it's something his crew's bulldozer found, and he wants to take it to the lab sometime. Because, you can just take things to the lab. What is this?
Yeah.
Well, they leave the canister out on the counter and go off to do their own things. Marianne feeds the little cat in the kitchen. How'd that little cat get out the window even? In and out the window. It's a tiny little cat.
Teeny little cat.
Sounds like it comes and goes all the time.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Well, the baby blob oozes out of the canister, and suddenly, the kitten is gone.
No.
Marianne goes outside looking for the cat, but the blob finds her instead.
Yeah, there's quite a body count in this one.
Yeah. Lisa, Leslie, and a group of the girls plan a party. Can they get Bobby to come? Well, we watch a group of scouts getting a nature lesson from their scoutmaster, and they run into Lisa on the road. Hello, Mrs. What's her name?
Lisa.
Hello, Mrs. Lisa. Oh, my God. They must have said it 38 times.
Yeah.
The scouts are really you just hope they're going to get it.
And they do.
Some of them.
We get our wish.
Chester is watching the original The Blob movie on TV. He gets up to tune the TV, and when he sits down, the blob has taken his chair, which goes really badly for him.
Yes, it does.
Lisa comes over to Chester's house to pick up a gift, and she sees him mostly covered in blob goo, but not quite dead yet. She screams and makes a run for it. Uh-oh. Lisa drives down the road to get Bobby, and the two go back to Chester's house. The scoutmaster gets annoyed with his kids playing with those annoying clicky-clack ball toys. Remember these? They're about 2-inch round balls. There's 2 of them on a string, and you hold the middle of the string, and they...
Uh-huh. I used to have one.
My parents would never get me one. They knew I'd kill my brother with it.
Bonk. It would be a good weapon for that.
Bobby and Lisa don't find anything at the now deserted Chester's house. When they come out of the house, the sheriff is there because she was driving like a maniac. Meanwhile, Randy, a guy who can't sing, is wailing with his guitar in a storm drain.
Just, he can't sing doesn't mean he doesn't sing.
That's true. Yeah. Like most karaoke people. You gotta sing. You're not good at it. Actively bad at it, but do it anyway.
Yep.
You always sound better singing on a storm drain, though.
Mm-hmm.
He and his girlfriend are super high. They're busted by a couple of cops. One of them gets called away, but the blob eats the one who remains. A hairdresser wants to charge a hippie $400 for a haircut. He's a snarky, smart-ass hairdresser who insults his customer all throughout the process. This guy's a hoot.
Mm-hmm.
Neither of them see the blob coming up through the drain, and then they both get eaten.
Yep.
The police release Lisa and Bobby, but she's really insistent on getting the thing she saw. The police didn't find anything in Chester's house. One of the deputies arrests a naked man running down the street. The Blob ate the man's dog.
Yeah, and he's listed in the credits as the Naked Turk. He's this big
Put that on your resume.
This big Turkish guy in the bath, and the Blob comes in to the bathroom and does get his dog, but he gets away naked, running down the street. So that's kind of hilarious, and he shows up at the police station, and they're, give him some clothes or something.
Chester in the kitchen is just hilarious, and then you got the Scoutmaster's just silly, and then there's this one. Again, we're back to the humor side of it. Most of these victims usually have some kind of little joke involved.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Lisa and Bobby go home, forgetting that this is Bobby's surprise party. She even gets even more hysterical, but they all think she's on drugs and ignore her, carrying on. It was the 70s.
Yeah.
The police start noticing a lot of missing persons call this evening. Edward Fazio has trouble unloading his beer cans and swears vengeance against Bobby. They drive by him and he knocks over a whole bunch of beer cans. 3 hobos. Hobos?
Hobos.
Is that a word we're still allowed to use?
I think so.
Hobo?
Is that politically incorrect to say hobo now?
I don't know. Well, that's what they're listed as in the credits.
We're using it. Yeah, that's what they called them in the movie.
Yes.
So.
There's these 3 hobos, one of them is Larry Hagman, who complain about hating hippies, and they all get drunk in there wherever they're hanging out. They hear something outside and argue about who's going to go outside and look to see what it is, and that goes badly for all 3 of them.
Like I said, big body count in this one.
Lisa notices the scout troops fire up on the hill, and then we see a bunch of empty sleeping bags. The Blob oozes down and covers Bobby and Lisa's entire truck. In the struggle, they kick their air conditioner up to high, but they don't put it together when the Blob backs off. It goes and eats a bunch of horses instead, so they get away. They pick up Leslie and go to the bowling office. Leslie sees that the Blob is halfway eaten Joe, the gorilla-suited party guest. That's what he's in as the credits for, Joe, the gorilla-suited party guest.
He is, yeah.
And it ends up eating her as well. Lisa and Bobby get to the bowling alley. They call for the sheriff, but end up getting thrown out. Turns out, the manager of the bowling alley is Edward Fazio, who hates them both by this point.
And again, a bit of comedy there.
Yeah,
you
run into the one guy in town.
Yeah.
The Blob eats a couple of bowling alley repairmen, and then the screaming starts, along with the stampede. The phones start ringing off the hook at the sheriff's office. Meanwhile, the Blob is pigging out at the bowling alley office. Fazio believes Bobby and Lisa now, and he goes to hide with them. They get trapped in the ice skating ring that's next to the bowling alley.
Mighty convenient.
Bobby spills some ice on the Blob, and it retreats. Aha! They remember that they had the air conditioner on in the truck when it retreated from there, too. They think that if they turn up the ice skating ring, it will freeze the creature. Outside, the sheriff tells the deputy to go get a bunch of gasoline because they're going to burn the place down.
That's wrong approach.
Not good.
Yeah.
But wonder what would happen if they did.
Nothing.
We don't know that. It might dry out and turn to dust.
Well,
we know cold kills it.
In the remake, they used a flamethrower on it. And it didn't have any
Oh,
effect.
yeah, they did. You're right.
Yeah.
Bobby has to swing across over the Blob on a rope to get to the control box for the ice rink. He hits the switch, and the Blob freezes. Darn near instantly.
Yeah.
The sheriff is just about to light the fire outside when Bobby, Lisa, and Fazio run out and tell him not to burn the building. The TV news crew later comes in to interview the sheriff, and they bring hot lights with them.
Oops. Now this time, maybe if they dump in the Arctic again, they'll mark the spot.
Do not take this
Do
to
not
warm
take
places.
this
Yes.
back to where it's going to thaw.
Well, this is the only film Larry Hagman directed. Many characters are playing with Kerr-knockers, those annoying little knocker ball things. There's a scene where one of the scout kids are playing with it, and the scoutmaster takes it away, and then another kid's playing with a different pair, and the scoutmaster takes it away, and then another kid playing with them, and the scoutmaster takes them away. And then later on, somebody else is playing with the things.
Maybe they were the hot toy of 1972.
They must have been. It's like Rubik's Cubes in the later 70s.
Mm-hmm.
It often seemed like a series of little segments that have been tacked together. You got Chester's segment. You got the Scoutmaster segment. You got the bowling alley segment. You got the, it's just little things. They go from one thing to another.
Mm-hmm.
But at least it looks like the actors were mostly had fun making this. There's a lot of not serious faces here. A lot of familiar faces from the 70s and 80s shows here, and it's almost as much comedy as it is horror. It is pretty dated, after all, it was 50 years ago, but not so bad if you watch it with a horror comedy in mind and don't take it too seriously.
Very watchable.
Oh, yeah.
Very entertaining.
It was definitely 70s, very 70s, but
Yes.
yeah, it was good. What's up next?
Carrie, another 70s movie that doesn't seem as distinctly 70s. I mean, well, the fashions and stuff, I guess, but this seems less 70s than the Blob did.
Well, with the exception of cell phones and computers, something like this could happen at any point.
Yeah, and it does later. They make a remake.
Yeah. Directed by Brian De Palma, written by Stephen King and Lawrence D. Cohen, stars Sissy Spacek, Piper Laurie, and Amy Irving. Hour and 38 minutes. Spoiler free. Well, you already know what happens. It's a pretty simple story, but it's a good one. Sissy Spacek and Piper Laurie are perfectly cast as mother and daughter with powerhouse performances, and the rest of the supporting cast is good too. Almost everybody in this went on to do lots of other things.
A lot of recognizable faces.
The special effects look realistic, and all in all, it still holds up as entertaining. Have you seen the remake of Carrie?
I have. It wasn't as good.
I did too, and it was not that good.
Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah.
I thought this is very, very good, and remake just okay.
Righto.
Didn't
Yes.
hate it, but it's okay. The remake, I mean.
All right. Well, what happens in this one?
Well, we immediately see that Carrie isn't popular, nor is she good at sports. In the shower, she starts to bleed and freaks out.
Boy, does she freak out.
Yeah, screaming for help. She has no idea that her period has started. Nobody ever told her. And the other girls start all laughing and throwing tampons at her. And she's hysterical, so the gym teacher, Miss Collins, slaps her to get her to calm down. She screams and the light in the shower explodes.
Starting with a funky business right away.
Well, then Miss Collins realizes, and she feels bad about that. Well, she tells the principal, and they're both surprised that her ultra-religious mother hadn't explained the facts of life to Carrie. Carrie stares at the principal's ashtray, and it shakes and rattles on the desk until it jumps off all by itself. Carrie's mother, Margaret, goes to see Sue's mother. Sue's one of the classmates, one of the mean girls, or so it seems. Well, she's there to proselytize for her church. Margaret is pretty well known in the neighborhood for being an annoying religious zealot.
Oh, it's her again.
Yeah.
Let's give her $5 and make her go away.
$5 for the church. Well, the school calls her and tells her what happened, and she doesn't react well either. Margaret tells Carrie, "You're a woman now, a sinner," and hits her with a Bible.
Whack.
Yep. Margaret goes on and on about how
Is that what they
badly
mean by
Carrie
Bible
sinned.
thumpers?
Yeah, well, I don't know. She goes on about how badly Carrie has sinned. If she'd prayed harder, this never would have happened. I mean,
I don't think that's gonna
That's
stop
not how
it.
that works. Yeah. Well, Carrie says she hasn't done anything. Carrie gets locked in the closet to pray with the creepiest Jesus statue ever.
It is a very creepy statue.
It is, with glowing eyes. Yeah. Well, at school the next day, Miss Collins gives the other girls the riot act over what they did yesterday to Carrie. She threatens to ban them from the prom, but the office says it's detention instead, with her. So she makes their afternoon a lot tougher in detention.
Never make the gym teacher angry.
Yeah. Well, Chris, one of the girls, revolts, and so Collins suspends her from prom privileges. And meanwhile, Carrie reads up on miracles and telekinesis.
Probably not the same book.
Yeah. Student Sue asks her boyfriend Tommy to take Carrie to the prom. Sue wants to give Carrie a morale boost, plus she feels bad about the bullying that's been going on. And Tommy is reluctant, but he finally agrees. He's a decent guy too. And Chris and her boyfriend, Billy, argue in his car, then they make up. They are not good people. Well, at school, Carrie does get asked to the prom by Tommy. Carrie thinks it's a trick, but Miss Collins thinks he might be sincere, and she'd miss out on a good time. When Collins asks Tommy and Sue why they did this, Sue says she's trying to help, but Collins doesn't quite buy it.
It's got to be a trick.
Yeah, that's what they think, but we're getting a sense that maybe they're okay. Tommy goes to Carrie's house.
Well, I had
asks
seen
her
this
again.
before long ago.
Oh, and you
I've read the book
misunderstood it.
too.
Yeah.
And I thought at this point they were, behind the whole thing.
That they were setting it
Well,
up.
I knew a trick was coming. I knew what was going to happen. I just didn't remember who was behind it all.
They weren't behind it.
Sure seemed like they were at this point.
It was Chris. She agrees, Carrie does, mostly just to get him to go away. Well, Billy and his friends, this is Chris's boyfriend, go to the pig farm and kill a pig and collect some blood. What are they up to? Carrie tells her mother about the prom, and that starts a new fight. Carrie gets upset, and all the doors and windows close on their own. "You've got Satan's power," says Margaret. And back at school that night, Billy and Chris set up a bucket of blood above the stage. The next day, everyone is talking about Tommy and Carrie and the prom. Why would he ask her? Well, Chris hints that there's something nefarious afoot, but she won't spill the beans in front of Sue. And there is conniving going on that will get Carrie elected queen of the prom. And then we have a getting ready for the prom montage as Carrie gets a dress and Tommy gets a tux.
The one guy gets a T-shirt that looks like a tux.
T-shirt, yeah. Fits his personality perfectly. Well, Margaret wants to burn Carrie's dress. She suggests they do it together, and we'll pray for forgiveness. "They're all going to laugh at you," cries Margaret, which is kind of a classic line.
They're all going to laugh at you. They're all going to laugh at you. They're all going to laugh at you. They're all going to laugh at you.
Carrie makes her shut up.
Oh, does she?
She uses the force. Well, Tommy seems sincere. He picks her up. He's a regular gentleman, really takes care of Carrie as they arrive at the dance. And she's, shy, and, this is her first time for all this stuff. Well, everyone is nice to Carrie, which is a first. But many of them are faking it. Yeah, because they're all...
But a lot of people do know something's going on.
A lot of them are in on this prank, yeah. Sue, who doesn't have a date for the prom and so can't go, leaves home and says she's going to go out tonight. Well, Ms. Collins, she talks to Carrie, and she's still concerned it's some kind of trick, but there's no real sign of trouble. Carrie dances with Tommy. It's her first time, and he shows her how, and they kiss. Tommy actually starts to like Carrie a little, and he's clearly not in on the prank that Chris and Billy have planned. They actually have a good time. Well, meanwhile, back at home, Margaret is going insane by herself.
Where did they get that many candles?
Yeah, boy. Well, it's time to vote for the prom king and queen. Tommy talks Carrie into voting for themselves. Chris has some friends swap out the real ballots and fakes so Carrie and Tommy win. Well, the happy couple come up on stage. Carrie is embarrassed, but also incredibly happy about it. Carrie stands right under the bucket of pig's blood that Chris and Billy set up before.
It's a good thing they set up that bucket in exactly the right place. It wouldn't work if they'd have poured it on him.
She's standing on the X. Yeah. Would have been less effective. Everyone claps for the king and queen. Sue sneaks in because she wants to see how things are going, and she notices a cord running up to the bucket. Sue, who genuinely was trying to help Carrie by getting Tommy to take her to the prom in the first place, tries to stop things, but gets hauled out and kicked out. Chris pulls the cord, pouring the blood all over Carrie. And then Chris and Billy run for it. Well, Carrie is shocked.
Really?
Yeah. No kidding. Oh, that's just a horrifying moment. From happy to just, that. Tommy is shocked. The entire audience is shocked. Then some of the mean girls start laughing, and many people join in laughing.
Now, at this point, we see the teachers laughing too, Miss Collins, who was her friend.
I think
There's quite a lot of debate about this. Yes. Was she really laughing at Carrie,
don't think so.
Was that what Carrie thought she was seeing?
I think a lot of what Carrie was seeing was her mother's,
they're going to laugh at you.
They're all going to laugh at you.
Uh-huh.
Some of them were.
Well,
but I really don't think Miss Collins and some of the others were like she was seeing, but she was just so totally freaked out. Well, that bad things happen when you get a telekinetic teenager riled up to that degree. So, the bucket falls and knocks Tommy right out, possibly kills him. All Carrie hears is her mother saying, "They're all going to laugh at you." Well, Carrie gets a funny look in her eyes. All the doors shut and lock. Did you notice the lights all turned red, too? That was a cool effect.
I thought that was just a sort of a camera filter to show her state of mind.
Well, it could have been.
Maybe it did. Maybe it really was lighting.
I think it really was. It was her. I think she did that too.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, the fire hose starts spraying the audience, and everyone tries to get out of the building. People are electrocuted. Miss Collins is cut in half. The auditorium catches fire. Carrie leaves the flaming building, locking the door behind her. Chris and Billy try to run her over, but Carrie makes the car crash, killing them both.
A memorable evening for everyone.
Yeah, no survivors. Except Sue, she was outside.
She got kicked out. Uh-huh.
They kicked her out, yeah. Carrie goes home. Margaret has lit hundreds of candles. Just the entire house is full of them. Carrie cautiously goes up to her room, and Carrie cries and takes a bath to wash the pig blood off. She tells Margaret that they did laugh at her, but Margaret doesn't say anything. And then Margaret has the most awesome monologue, telling about her greatest sin, getting pregnant for her. And just the way she describes that. They prayed, and they tried to resist the sin, but they both gave into it, and he had whiskey on his breath and touched me all over, and
she liked it.
And it was horrible, and I liked it. And, oh, man, I just love that moment. Well, Margaret stabs Carrie in the back and throws her down the stairs. Carrie uses her powers to fill up Margaret with knives like a pincushion. And then Carrie pulls the house down on top of both of them. It literally sinks into the ground. The next morning, Sue wakes up in her bed. She's the only one who has survived the prom. And sometime later, she goes to the pit where Carrie's house used to be. An arm reaches up from the grave and grabs her. And then she wakes up screaming. Apparently, Sue isn't quite over it yet. Traumatized.
Yeah, it was quite a prom.
Yeah.
Well, I'd forgotten what a simple plot this had. Carrie gets asked at the prom, she goes, and bad things happen. Yep.
Yeah, that's about it.
There's Carrie's story, and then the prank side plot where we see the prank coming together, but there's really not that much else. It's fast-moving and doesn't have very much filler in it.
Mm-hmm.
Carrie's telekinesis is there from the very beginning, but it's not really the focus of any part of the story until the end. The real monsters here are the other girls and Carrie's mother. Still, a lot of innocent people end up dying, such as Miss Collins and Tommy. Probably a lot of the kids at the dance knew nothing about it either.
Yeah, there was a lot of people there.
Now, if only more YouTube pranksters would run into people like Carrie, the internet would be a better place.
I'd take care of some of that.
Don't prank people when you don't know what their superpowers might be.
That's right.
What next?
A short film called Smile, brand new this year.
Smile. I'm hearing big reviews about that one.
It's a different Smile.
Oh, not that Smile.
This is a short little Smile. Directed by Joanna Sanis, also written by Joanna Sanis, stars Ashley Lawrence and Tyler Williams. Runtime is 6 hours and 6... Yeah,
it's a long one, huh?
Excuse me. 6 minutes and 6 seconds.
There you go.
And it's on YouTube.
It is.
Well, Anna's mother leaves a desperate-sounding voicemail. She just wants to hear from Anna. Anna does hear things in the house, but then she takes her medications. She goes looking for the sound, and there's nothing there. She sees something in the dark, but when she turns the lights on, it's just a photo. She gets more depressed when she sees the happy photo, so she decides to go to bed. And that cheers her right up.
Smile.
With a smile on her face.
Was that a happy Cenobite from Hellraiser there? It could be.
It was very reminiscent of the Cenobites. Very much,
yeah. Somebody in a mask, but it looked like a Cenobite mask. You know the voice on the phone, the mother, who that was? Ashley Lawrence. She was Kirsty in the original Hellraiser movies.
Oh.
So there is a connection there.
There is. Okay.
The makeup and monster effects are really good here, but the story is a little unclear. What's up with her sister and mother, and who is the monster? Don't know.
But still, it's very good.
It looks good. Yeah, it's pretty neat.
It's a good one. Yeah.
And it's short. So, yeah, give that one a watch. It's neat.
Yeah.
What else did we like?
Poltergeist, another classic. 1982. We're up to the 80s now.
You saw that when it came out, I imagine.
I did.
I saw that several times when it came out. That was one of my favorite horror movies for a very long time.
This was actually my third viewing. I've seen it since, and then...
Only 3 times?
Yeah, just 3 times.
This is right up there with Star Wars for me.
Well, it was directed by Tobe Hooper, written by Steven Spielberg, Michael Grace, and Mark Victor. Stars JoBeth Williams, Heather O'Rourke, and Craig T. Nelson. Runtime is 1 hour and 54 minutes, and there's a trailer on YouTube.
Just to clarify, it was not directed by Spielberg. I think a lot of people think this was one of his movies.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote it.
I was confused on that, too. I'd forgotten. I was thinking he was the director. No, but Tobe Hooper had lots of
Chainsaw
horror
Massacre,
movie
many
experience.
other things.
Yeah, The Fun House, and yeah.
What happened? Spoiler free.
This is a big budget horror movie that doesn't get enough credit.
Spielberg was involved. Of course, it's got a budget.
It builds up nice and slow, letting us get to know the family and root for them before the bad things happen. The cast is great, even the kids. The story is really good, and the special effects still hold up. And if you've never seen this, you really should.
You really should. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really good. Not to be confused with the 2015 remake, which we'll talk about next week.
And we didn't
Do
enjoy
not.
nearly as much.
Do not, under any circumstances, watch the 2015 remake.
Or,
If you have a copy of the 2015 remake, put it in your paper shredder today.
wow.
Burn it in the fireplace.
Really harshing
Bury it
on
in a deep pit.
Or watch
We've
it
got
first
a really good,
and then watch
entertaining
this
review
one
for
and
you
realize-
next week.
Yeah, watch it first and then watch this one to see, oh, that was so much better.
No.
So you can compare them.
Watch this one. If you're going to watch them both first, watch the good one first. This one.
Okay, so you can be thoroughly disappointed by the remake.
Otherwise, you're probably going to be entertained by the first one, and the first one's going to seem lesser. There was some good stuff about the second one, but it was all the good stuff that they stole from this one.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, there has never been a more unnecessary, pitifully worthless, offensive remake than Poltergeist 2015.
This is right up there with the least worthy of remakes. Yeah.
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 Because
But
the first one is so good.
it is so very good. Yeah.
We watched the TV station signing off with the national anthem as credits roll, followed by static. TVs used to turn off at night.
Yeah, they used to not broadcast it because, channels and stuff. Yeah.
As the dog roams through the house, we see Steve, Diane, Dana Robbie, and Carol Ann Freeling all asleep in their beds. Carol Ann, the little girl, wakes up and goes downstairs, attracted to the flickering on the TV. She talks to whoever's in there. Everyone wakes up and watches. There's no one on the TV, but Carol Ann is having what seems to be a two-way conversation with them. She hears things. The next day, we get a view of the housing project they all live in. Hundreds and hundreds of brand new homes. Diane notices the pet bird Tweety has died, and she and Carol Ann bury the bird in the backyard. Meanwhile, Robbie climbs the creepy old tree in the backyard. He's kind of afraid of the tree, especially at night in the rain. He also doesn't like the creepy clown toy in his bedroom. Steve mentions, though, that he works for the company that built the neighborhood. He's their
Robbie-
#1 salesman.
Robbie's kind of a fearful little boy. But,
More so in that remake.
yeah.
Yeah.
Considering all the creepy stuff.
You got a reason to be,
Can't blame
yeah.
him too much.
Yeah, it's the old canary in the coal mine thing. And who's the first fatality in this movie?
The canary.
The bird.
Yeah.
You think that's a coincidence?
I always thought it was just a coincidence.
It
But
could
maybe
be.
not.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really relevant to the plot, but it... I
A
don't
foreshadowing.
know. Yeah.
Yeah. The symbolism of canary in the coal mine, maybe.
When the TV signs off that night, Carol Ann goes to the screen again and talks to the static. This time, smoky hands come out of the TV and explore the room. Then the room shakes like an earthquake, waking up everyone. "They're here," states Carol Ann. The next morning, they notice spoons are bent and other strange things. The dog starts acting up, and the chairs in the kitchen have a life of their own. When Steve gets home, Diane and Carol Ann have a whole little ghost demonstration for him. They've been playing with the ghosts all day. Those ghosts look like fun.
Or some strangeness, anyway. It wasn't not necessarily ghosts at that point, but stuff would slide across the kitchen floor.
Yeah.
Something was making whether it was
Something unnatural is happening.
yeah.
That night, a storm rolls in. The tree reaches through the window and pulls Robbie outside. A light comes on in the closet, beckoning Carol Ann inside. Eventually, she gets sucked right in and vanishes. They hear her calling through the static on the TV. Soon, at the nearby university, Steve explains the problem to Dr. Lesh, a paranormal expert. He takes her and her 2 assistants to see Carol Ann's room. I have never seen a paranormal expert at a university in real life.
I haven't either.
The Ghostbusters and then this one. And, most universities aren't going to go anywhere near that stuff with a 10-foot pole.
This one does. Good thing for them.
Well, they're quickly convinced. And I mean quickly convinced.
Stuff's flying all over her room.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to debate that this is real.
Yeah.
Lesh thinks that it might be a poltergeist instead of a standard haunting. Carol Ann calls and says there's someone there with her. One of the assistants gets bitten by something large. Dr. Lesh explains about heaven and going into the light, and some people that resist going into the light. Meanwhile, a light comes on upstairs, and a very visible ghost comes down the stairs into the living room. When they play back the video recording, they see dozens of ghosts there. You only see the one, but then there's dozens on the tape.
The film shows, yeah.
The next morning, Robbie goes to stay with Grandma. He's had enough.
Yes.
Dr. Lesh says she'll help when she comes back.
She'll bring help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve's boss, Mr. Teague, wonders why Steve hasn't been at work lately. Teague shows Steve the next phase of development. He offers him a house to be built on the hill and a partnership in Phase 5. There's a big cemetery up there, but they're going to relocate it, just like they did with the older developments.
Wait, what? Their house is built on a cemetery site.
It's okay. They moved the graves.
Okay.
Steve's house is located on what used to be a cemetery. Dr. Lesh invites Zelda, a small medium, you know there's a joke in there,
There is.
to sense what's in the house. She explains that Carol Ann is distracting a bunch of spirits that can't find the real light. Carol Ann must help them to cross over. Also, there's something terrible in there with her that will try to stop her. Zelda tells Diane to call Carol Ann and tell her to go into the light. They go into Carol Ann's room, and the closet is full of flashing lights. Zelda throws a tennis ball into the closet, and it comes out through a portal in the living room ceiling. They throw a rope through the portals. Diane ties herself to the rope and goes through the portal.
Yeah, that was a neat effect. They throw the rope into the closet and it comes out of the ceiling, and it's the same rope going through the portal.
Yeah.
It's a neat effect.
If you ever play the video game Portal, it's just like that,
Yeah.
only deadlier.
Uh-huh.
Zelda tells the spirits to go into the light, but Steve doesn't want Carol Ann to go into the light, so he pulls on the rope, and he gets a face full of demonic entity for his trouble. In the theater, when this was new, when that thing poked its head out, you could just hear the audience crapping itself.
Uh-huh.
Ah! And that actually is probably the one thing in this movie that doesn't really hold up that well now.
I think of all the effects, that one looks the most dated.
On the other end, Diane and Carol Ann fall through the ceiling. They're back. This house is clean, declares Zelda. She could be wrong.
She could be.
The next morning, they're packing up and moving out. Steve's going to the office to resign, and the rest of the family gets ready for the night.
And at this point, I said,
Why?
What? Why are they still in the house? What are they doing?
You can hire movers to pack your stuff. You
Yeah.
could at least pack and go somewhere at nightfall. They're
After
getting ready for bed.
all this happened, they're going to spend the night in the house again.
But they're not. They say they're going to spend the night at a motel, but yet they all get ready for bed before Steve returns.
Yeah, they were getting ready for bed. She was in her jammy shirt and doing her hair, and they were gearing up to for bedtime.
They were told the house is clean, but still,
Boy,
they're
no.
moving, so they must not have too much faith in that.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Diane takes a bath while her kids go to bed, in their bedrooms, in the haunted house. Duh.
Yeah.
Robbie tries to
Bad
cover
move.
the stupid clown toy with his jacket, but it falls off. After a few minutes, the clown is gone. Where is it? Well, it's under the bed, of course. It attacks Robbie and pulls him under there as Carol Ann watches. In her own room, Diane gets rolled up the walls and across the ceiling as Carol Ann's closet door opens again. Once again, it starts sucking things in.
Yeah, and Carol Ann and Robbie, they share the bedroom. It's the same bedroom.
Diane runs for help, but falls into the under-construction swimming pool. Corpses and a casket float to the surface. There are bodies down there. Back inside, the closet has become a full-scale portal to hell, still trying to suck in the children. She manages to pull them out just in time. Steve and Mr. Teague arrive outside and watch the electrical disturbances. They both get to experience a bunch of corpses as well. Steve curses Teague for just moving the headstones. He left the bodies in the ground.
And that's why all the dead are so PO'd.
Everyone piles into the car and drives away. The whole neighborhood
The whole neighborhood?
the whole neighborhood goes batshit crazy as they drive away. Then the house implodes as Teague watches. Steve, Diane, and the kids go to stay at the Holiday Inn, but they put the TV outside the room. The end.
The end.
Never see any more of that,
Nope.
except for the 3 sequels.
Except for the
2 sequels at least.
the sequels.
Why would they spend any time at all in that house after getting Carol Ann back? Let the movers pack their stuff up. No, they decided to stay the next day into the evening. The kids are even in pajamas.
Mm-hmm.
I saw this several times when it first came out in theaters. It is still one of the best haunted house movies ever. The fact that it was a big-budget Spielberg movie is probably one of the reasons it doesn't get the credit it deserves as a horror film.
But
You see,
it's a
like,
good one.
top 10 horror films, and this usually isn't there.
Usually not.
I think it's in my top 10.
Yeah, it's up there.
I think part of the reason this is so good is that we get lots of time with the family before the weirdness starts, and then it builds up slowly, but consistently, to a very tense climax. Everything is explained in the end, and it all more or less makes sense, except for the part for going to bed at the end.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of silly humor early on, but it all gets very serious once the story gets going. And the special effects are top-notch and still mostly hold up 40 years. It has been 40 years.
40 years.
Yes. Wow.
We're old.
You are.
Yeah.
All right. Now, several months ago, maybe
watched
2 months ago, we watched
Maniac.
Maniac from the 70s.
Which was a mighty fine movie.
Yeah, it's definitely looking a little dated, but it was very good. We both liked it.
Yeah.
And there's a remake from 2012. Did you know this even existed?
I didn't until recently.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it kind of went under the radar. Directed by Frank Calhoun, written by Alexander Aja? Aja? A-J-A?
I always thought it was Aja.
Alexander Aja.
Aja.
Gregory Levasseur and Joe Spinell. Joe Spinell wrote and directed the original, and he was also the star. So he gets some writing credit here. He's been dead for a long time, but he did still write the story.
They counted him.
Yeah. Stars Elijah Wood, Frodo Baggins himself. He's never going to get away from that. Nora Arnezeder and America Olivo. Hour and 29 minutes. If you weren't familiar with this, and there is a trailer in the show notes. Spoiler free, we often scoff at remakes. They're so often unnecessary and not as good as the original.
We were just scoffing at the Poltergeist remake.
Oh, the scoffing. You wait till next week for that one. That's yeah.
But anyway.
This one is an exception with great performances and the same grittiness that the original from 1980 had. This version gives a little bit more of a point of view of Frank, giving us even more of the idea of madness that he struggles with and commands his life.
And I think I'm going to add, too, that I think this might be the finest acting work that I've seen Elijah Wood do.
Really? He's
thought-
been good in lots of things.
I thought he was especially good in this. Yeah, he's never bad, but yeah, I don't know. This one, I thought he was exceptionally good.
He's a maniac.
He's a maniac. Yeah, on the floor.
On the floor, yes. Not on the phone, on the floor. You corrected me last week. Well, what happens in this one?
Judy leaves a party, has to pass a bunch of men catcalling her. Someone who breathes heavily is following her in his car. He knows her name and where she lives. Well, Judy gets home and finds that the lights are out on her floor, and we saw that's not a coincidence.
No, he did that.
She gets to her apartment, and he kills her before she even has a chance to scream. And then he scalps her, and credits roll.
That's a pretty surprising kill, too. She
It
just
was-
turns around and boom, knife
Yeah.
right through the throat.
Fast and brutal. Frank emails a woman on the internet dating site. See, that it's updated. There's internet now.
Yeah, there wasn't
Yeah.
in 1980.
He sends her a picture of himself. He looks like a mix of Frodo Baggins and Harry Potter. She agrees to meet him at the restaurant. And I thought that was neat. He was scrolling through, deciding what picture to send of himself.
And there were lots of pictures of him as
Lots
a kid.
of
yes.
pictures, real pictures of Elijah Wood, at various ages and stages and stuff. I thought that was neat.
Well, he's been a
That
child
they could
star
do
since he
those.
was very little. So
Yeah.
I mean, we know what he looked like as a kid.
Yeah. Well, Frank imagines everyone in the restaurant is staring at him. He has an anxiety attack. Then he runs into the restroom and takes some pills.
Are you on your meds? Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes they work. Well, she invites him up to her apartment for a drink, and they undress each other, and then he strangles her.
As one does.
He talks to himself, saying he hates himself, but then he scalps her. And afterwards he goes into the bathroom and pukes his dinner up. He goes home and talks to the mannequins in his room. He has a surprise. He puts a scalp on the mannequin, and he staples it onto her. And he gets angry, and we see why he has bloody knuckles and bruised hands.
And the girl he went to dinner with had this piercing in her lip. And the mannequin has the exact same one. So he knew he was going to do all this before
Yes,
he went.
he
He made the
planned ahead.
mannequin to look like her.
And you see some of his hallucinations too. He will have flashes where he sees the mannequin as a real alive woman.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, the next morning, he meets a woman photographer who wants to take pictures of his mannequins. She's just taken
Just
them
on
from
the street.
the storefront, and he invites her in to see his work, which turns out to be a showroom and other rooms full of mannequins with more in various stages of completion. He's restored most of them, and he sells and rents them as a business. He collects junk antiques and broken ones and fixes them up. Well, she wants to rent some of them for her photo shoot. She's having a big art studio display, and her name is Anna. Well, the day after that, Frank goes out into the car, cruising for more victims, ends up at a dance school, and hides in the closet as Jessica, one of the dancers, gets dressed after performing. He follows her to the subway and onto the train. When they get off the train, he chases her through the empty subway station. She runs into a gated parking lot, but he finds her and traps her there and does his thing, his scalping thing.
Now, when you watch the trailer for this, it shows the subway chase, and it's almost a shot-for-shot remake of the original. He kills somebody in the subway, but it actually turns out differently here. He doesn't kill her in the restroom booth.
the bathroom.
He gets her outside.
Yep, it is different. Yeah. Well, Anna takes pictures as Frank works on restoring a mannequin. She still wants to use them in her show. He likes her because she respects the mannequins. Well, then Frank has a migraine or something and runs off to take a nasal spray to help.
Respect the mannequins.
Frank sees that the police are looking for links to all the murders. And we see that Frank has serious mommy and woman issues. That next night, Frank and Anna go see the cabinet of Dr. Caligari. But all Frank can see is his hallucinations. And afterwards, Anna mentions that she has a boyfriend.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
Oh,
Frank,
no.
Frank is in the friend zone. Well, it's the night of Anna's big show, and Frank does attend. He sees Anna making out with her boyfriend, and Frank follows the boyfriend into the restroom. He had been assuming Frank was gay. One woman says the mannequins are creepy junk. No respect for the mannequins. You know what's going to happen
She
to her?
gonna pay for that.
Yeah. Frank follows her home when she leaves, and this, of course, is not her best night. Yeah. Well, Anna calls Frank on the phone. Her agent was murdered last night, and we see the agent's scalp and robe on the mannequin in the corner of the bedroom. That's just the most twisted scene. He's consoling her on the phone, and
I'm so sorry your agent died.
yeah,
As he looks at her scalp in the corner.
yeah. Frank talks to all his mannequins, even the little boy version of himself. And he goes over to Anna's place to console her and meets Martin, her neighbor. And I kind of got the impression that maybe Anna was trying to set Frank up with Martin a little bit.
Oh,
there.
she thought he was gay too.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
That's the impression I had.
You could be right.
The reason Martin was there. Yeah. Anna mentions that she and her boyfriend broke up. Frank accidentally lets it slip that he knows where the agent lived, which tips her off he may be more involved in the murder than she thought. Well, yeah, she knows. She's figured it out. So she grabs a knife and fights back. Well, Martin hears the commotion from next door. He comes to the door, but Frank is the one who opens it. And with Martin dead, he breaks down the door to face Anna. He knocks her out and takes her home with him. Except when he opens the door of his van, she stabs him with the pointy end of one of a mannequin's hand. He chases her for a half a mile down the street, and it's lucky for him that no one lives in L.A.
Streets are deserted in Los Angeles
Yeah,
at
the
night.
subway was deserted at night. He gets kind of lucky there.
Mighty coincidental.
Yeah. Well, he's bleeding pretty badly by the time he catches up with Anna, who is nearly killed in a car accident. He then scalps her like the others. Later, he puts a wedding ring on the mannequin that has Anna's hair. How romantic! Except the other mannequins in his shop get jealous and gang up and kill him. They tear him apart. At least that's what we see.
That's what he sees.
That's what he sees happening, yeah. Eventually, the police come in and find that Frank has stabbed himself.
pretty much the same ending as the first movie.
Yeah, he sees the mannequins killing him, and he's actually doing it to himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we watched the original Maniac from 1980 a few months back, and we liked it a lot. It was so gritty, dirty, and atmospheric that you almost needed a shower after watching it.
Almost.
It was really low budget. It was filmed mostly in the dark, and it was well done, but it really looked cheap and dirty. And I think that was a feature.
And they both had that same element of, Frank able to function and even be charming, and yet utterly crazy at the same time. Yeah.
As with that film, this one has lots of shots from Frank's point of view. Actually, we mostly only see Frank in reflections and mirrors. It's almost entirely his point of view, or not directly.
Yeah.
The camera doesn't really show him much.
A lot of it, yeah.
We hear a lot of breathing and grunting from inside Frank's head, and it's the same character and basically the same situations as in the 1980 version, just everything is updated for the modern age. There's the internet and there's cell phones, and it all looks kind of modern. It's a very good remake. I don't normally notice soundtracks too much, but this one had a lot of memorable bits and kind of stands out. Kevin also mentioned about halfway through that he liked the soundtrack as well.
Yeah, very much.
Overall, this was surprisingly good. Mm-hmm. For such a standard, it's a well-regarded 1980s movie, but it's not really considered much of a classic. But it was very good.
It is, yeah.
And we weren't really expecting much from this, I don't think.
Well, and I think what makes it so good is, especially in this one, seeing his hallucinations and the stuff that happened to him that kind of led to this, PTSD and, the psychosis, the various things going on. It doesn't, I wouldn't exactly call him a sympathetic character, but they spend time, explaining his thought processes and what's going on in his head, what he's seeing, how he's experiencing the world.
He's crazy, but
it's interesting seeing
legitimate.
It's not just black and white, two-dimensional. We get to see more than we usually do.
Yeah. And that's our show for this week. Tune in next week when we'll have 4 more movies and a short. We're going to be watching a couple of things. When the Screaming Starts, a brand new indie film that just came out.
That I really liked. I was so pleasantly surprised by that.
I liked it. It was good. The Munsters, which we're going to reserve our opinions on that one for next week, because I know a lot of people really like it. I know a lot of people really hate it. You're going to have to tune in and find out.
Find out which camp we are.
Yeah.
But it does seem like it's strong opinions one way or the other.
Oh, yeah. It's either the best movie ever or just horrible garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah, one way or the other. What else did we watch? Do you remember?
Well, Hocus Pocus 2, are we
No,
including
that's
that
coming
in the show?
That's
Okay.
the following week.
The Mephisto Waltz?
Mephisto Waltz and The Thing That Couldn't Die will be next week's bonus reviews.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Thing That Would Not Die, that was strange because I had never heard of that. Never seen any stills.
1958, so it's not a new one.
Usually them golden oldies, I at least, know of them or heard of them or something. That was just completely under the radar.
The Mephisto Waltz from 1971, you'd never seen that one either.
But I had heard of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's a real
I
song.
knew it was out there. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But I knew the movie was out there. Ellen Alda.
Okay. So we got a weird setup for you next week. We got all kinds of good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We've been watching a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of being 2 weeks behind, we're starting to get a little ahead. We're getting caught up on our movies.
Nice.
Yay, horror.
Yes.
All right. Well, tune in next week. And until then, I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
And we'll see you next week.
See ya.